Hi, this is Chuck Sachs from Indie Opera Podcast with our 5th installment of interviews from the void. These are interviews that never got released last year. This one is with dell'Arte Opera Ensemble's artistic director, Chris Fecteau, and Marianna Mott-Newirth, the new executive director. Some things have changed for dell'Arte Opera Ensemble, and for the better. They made their way through the worst of the pandemic by keeping to their core mission of singer development. They offered Zoom classes and live-streamed solo concerts, preparing the company for the day they could return to the stage. In March, Marianna was promoted to executive director. She, Chris, and Karen put together a series of summer garden recitals that have been an absolute joy to the residents of Washington Heights and Inwood, and given their singers the opportunity to perform outdoors before a live audience again. Plans for the 2021 festival are going into the works. We can't spill the beans quite yet, but dell'Arte's annual summer festival will, for this year, be happening in the fall. Now, please enjoy our interview.
Determinas un nombre eternissant en sur ruina tipo es antes modelo en plan delicioso que eras en verdad petit ameno de l'animo ambizioso que del mismo terror haciendo al lado y sonreír las flores del eterno.
This is Chuck Sachs for Indie Opera Podcast, and I'll be talking with Chris Fecteau, co-founder and artistic director of dell'Arte Opera Ensemble, along with dell'Arte's new artistic administrator, Marianna Mott-Newirth. Hello, how are you today, both of you?
Good to see you, Chuck, on Zoom, and good to hear your voice.
Yes.
And how are you and your families been? Have you been safe and well during this COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, Karen and I got a little bit of a head start on the quarantining. She shattered her knee back in January, so she was confined to home all the way back to January 20th. And I was sort of in the caretaker role there for a while, but she's doing much better now. Otherwise, we've been pretty safe. I'm
glad to hear that. I didn't know, and I hope she is coming to a full healing.
Bendier every day.
I know I precluded all of this with my own surgery that it's fine, it wasn't too bad, but I've actually seen doctors in part of this process and been dealing with tests, so it's been interesting.
Yes.
So the pandemic shutdown has affected almost every industry massively, and none more so than live entertainment companies. Where was dell'Arte in terms of your training program and the preparation for your summer opera festival when this all hit?
Well, we had completed our casting process, and we were in the process of starting up all the sort of training elements that precede the rehearsal part of our program. We generally start that kind of work in late March or early April. So we were underway, and everybody was pretty enthusiastic about these two pieces, and we had a lot of good plans for work with Chuck Hudson and with Lucy Yates on Italian and Pablo Zinger on Spanish diction, but it hit hard and fast, and some decisions had to be made pretty quickly.
Yes, and I was really looking forward to it. I like Anna Bolena. I haven't seen it enough yet, but I was really looking forward to Juana. It being
you still can.
Yes, I know, but I was hoping I had my whole May and June plotted out in my book for what was happening, and then of course then July and August, and it's like, damn, there goes all of my opera for the summer. But also Juana, we had actually I'd been in contact with the writers last year because we featured them on the last Discovery Grants episode of Indie Opera Podcast.
Right,
So we
right.
got to hear a little bit of what was going on. And it is a fascinating story. So, yeah, why don't you talk, about what, so the plans are then to put this whole season up next year then?
Exactly. The decision was sort of very fast and very slow all at the same time. All of the information kept dribbling in, and I think most of us sort of had a sense that there would be some sort of postponement. But with our model of presenting in the summer, where venues are a little easier to come by, and where singers who are in New York, particularly because they are doing full-time jobs, have less to do. It just seemed the best choice to do it a full year later.
Mm-hmm. And at that point, I think the notes are that you're going to try to extend it to a full month.
Right. We're kind of looking to see what kind of programming we might add. Certainly, we want to keep the number of performances. For this coming summer, the plan was to do a slightly simpler festival because we had a sort of a short rental at Baruch. We ran into some booking issues. We were actually supposed to be back at La Mama, and they ran into a major booking issue. So we wound up at Baruch, but they didn't have as much time. So we were trimming the sails on this season. So we want to restore scenes program and restore some songs program to it. And then, perhaps
that's right.
piece.
It was. I had seen that it was mostly just the two operas.
Exactly. That was a necessity just because we had only slightly more than 2 weeks to get in and teched and going.
Yes. All right. Well, so what is going now though is the training program.
Absolutely.
And how fast was that turnover to switch it from what would have been a whole number of, and how many people were in the program?
There's, I think, 42 or 43 this year. A few are in both pieces, but most people are in one or the other. Some of the things were fairly easy. In fact, one of the first components of the program each year is an online translation project that each person contributes their own translations to what we call a Wiki-translation in a great big spreadsheet. And staff comments and guides and goes through some, it sort of happens in conjunction with some of the Italian classes and some of the Spanish work that we do with Lucy and Pablo. And over the course of a month or 5 or 6 weeks, each of the cast members gets to see the piece sort of appear in translation in front of them as a group project. So that was natural. That happens anyway. Initial coachings that are mostly text work were not affected because those kind of things aren't so bad on Zoom or Google Hangouts or FaceTime, whatever. We are starting to do some vocal coaching. It's pretty difficult to do with the traditional platforms, but we're starting to explore a new, well, it's not a new platform, but a new application of a jazzers platform called Jamkazam. It was originally designed for jazzers to jam online from remote locations.
That makes sense with that name.
Exactly, and it reduces the latency or the lag between locations pretty significantly if you've got the right equipment. And so that allows me. I've done a couple of sessions this way where I can still play for the person, and I hear them in the headphones, and they hear the piano in the headphones, and we are able to proceed apace. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better than nothing.
Right. Yes, I can imagine. And I mean,
in all this work, well, first of all, it's exciting to hear that you have all of the people in the program actually work towards a full translation, a kind of a group effort translation of the works. And what happens with that then is that eventually it's edited down and that becomes your super titles?
Yes, in past years, the staff has done the super titles, and certainly there is some of the spirit of the individuals in the super titles when it gets to that point. I think this year, because we have more time and a little more space to do so, I think I may task perhaps the assistant directors and maybe their choice of a few of the cast members to start the drafting process on their part, so that they're even more involved in that process and seeing what it's all about.
Yes, and it can potentially lead them to new skill sets.
Exactly.
And Lord knows we can use good super titleists in opera.
The positions at the Met for people doing super titles are actually quite nicely paid positions. A lot of responsibility when you've got a 4,000 seat house and running things very smoothly.
Yes, indeed. And now, is this the first time that you've had to add? I mean, I'm sure you've had Italian before, but this is the first time you've had to add Spanish.
This is actually our first year with Spanish. Adding a new language is kind of fun. We've done obviously lots of Italian and a decent amount of French and some German.
Right. And Italian and Spanish are sort of close. I know this because I used to be a music director and cantor for a Catholic church, and one of our 3 masses on a Sunday was in Spanish, and I was the cantor for that. And I had to constantly do my research every week to make sure I was at least coming as close to the Spanish pronunciation as opposed to my Italian that I knew. Because it is and it isn't close terms of
it's close, but there are obviously some traps if you're really used to the Italian, and it's hard not to fall into those traps. But Pablo Zinger has been really, really great. He has a sort of an extant simple video that he has up on YouTube that is a great starting place. I think it's about 45 or 50 minutes long, and it's a real testament to his mind helping singers through a new language that in that period of time he can deliver all the basics. And the other work he's been doing, we do sort of some group sessions on diction based on a scene at a time, that kind of thing.
Yes, and I mean it's really wonderful to have a new contemporary opera in Spanish. I mean, I know they're happening probably somewhat in Spain, and maybe in South America, but we don't get to see them as much here.
I think especially for this subject matter, there was, as a lot of people know, an earlier opera on Juana called "With Blood with Ink" by Daniel Crozier, and I'd actually worked on it. Several of us, Lucy Yates, who's our Italian coach, actually played one of the Juana roles in that in a production, and I love that piece very much. But one of the few things that I really lamented about it was that it was in English and not in Spanish, because some of the flavor just gets to a particular place when you go in the appropriate language.
You might want to look in, if you were interested in going for future operas in Spanish, to Johanny Navarro and Jose Felix Gomez. They're one of the pair that just got the Discovery Grant. They're both in Puerto Rican.
Exciting.
And they're writing new operas in I guess Spanish Puerto Rican there, and some of them are actually comedies.
That sounds pretty exciting, especially with the sort of tradition of Zarzuela and that tradition. To have a comedy coming along might be fun.
We could use some comedy these days.
Yes.
Yes, but her style also feels very Puccini-esque. Too, in that real flow of melody.
Exciting. And I'm sort of old school in my opera tastes, and when a new piece comes along, I like to hear that the voice is featured in a way that is good for the instrument.
Yes. So Mariana, I mean,
Yes.
you're new. I mean, you're
I
about
am.
under a year now.
Yes, I officially started working with dell'Arte as the artistic administrator in January.
Mm-hmm.
However, I kind of informally came on board last summer during the creating of Princess Melaine,
Mm-hmm.
and I came on as dramaturg and I was working with Bea as she was developing her libretto. And yes, it was kind of an amazing unfoldment of the process, and I just kind of hitched my wagon to to dell'Arte, and they seem to have been generous to open the doors to me. So
Mariana was really great in terms in that whole
Mhm.
project, and it went much beyond the dramaturgy.
Yes.
Her ability to sort of keep everyone in the staff and the cast sort of working together, and filling in the cracks when there were little issues that came up and big issues that came up was
Mhm.
really
I
tremendous.
believe my unofficial title was midwife.
Yes. And I knew that those skills and her other organizational skills would really come in handy. Plus her love for opera, so
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I mean,
made her a natural fit.
that was
It's
really
a great
birthing.
culmination.
And that was your first original commission, also. So
Exactly.
that
Yes.
was you were all learning how to deal with a new piece completely, and it was fascinating. I did like its old-timey feel, a numbers opera, which we don't get as much in contemporary opera.
Right.
And I mean, and the lyric style, and it was a fascinating story.
It is, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I've always been fascinated by the Boulanger sisters, and
Mhm.
knowing that they had, one of them had written this opera that was then lost.
Yes.
was very inspiring, and I sort of looked back at the Maeterlinck play and saw why it was inspiring to her.
Yes,
And it's definitely fitting with who dell'Arte Opera Ensemble is. It's like, it's kind of this merging of the old and the new, which is really great to be a part of that.
And I'm a huge fan of Bea and Whitney's work. I know I'm looking forward to, I'm going to be talking to New Camerata about their work on their opera film Julie, and
Yes.
Whitney is the composer there.
Premiere's coming up, just next month. Very exciting.
Yes,
Yep.
yes, it is.
Early June.
And see how they've worked around that process. So, Mariana, now that you came on board, were you? I'm hearing someone else in the background.
That may be my husband. He's working from home, of course. So he's taking some client calls. So
Of course.
maybe if I could close the door. Sorry. Yes, go ahead.
So, as artistic administrator,
Yes.
what does that involve for you? This?
It involves, well, it was pretty traditional at first in kind of picking up literally the administrative tasks and inputting information onto the website, getting familiar with the website. The dell'Arte website is a vast database of
Yes.
amazing information going back 20 years, 15 years. It's been
20 years, yeah.
20 years. So it's really been a learning process for me in knowing all of the information is there and how we input and what we need to keep the website running. And then just the general helping to put out the letters of agreement with each of the, being there for auditions, helping to manage the callbacks, getting the letters out to the people that we were offering, and making sure that the agreements were signed and came back. So there were all those, just juggling all those normal little balls in the air. And then, yes, in March, it all just, I mean, we were going forward, and it was full steam ahead. And I was actually looking forward to seeing what a normal cycle in an opera company would be. I mean, I've been a writer for a number of years, and I've been involved in theater, but my goal is to be, a producer of opera, and I wanted, so this is a perfect fit for me, and I wanted to see what a normal cycle would be.
Well,
right?
each opera company has its own instead
Yes,
of normal
yes,
because
yes, it does.
I spent 4 years at Encompass Opera and fulfilling like business manager and production manager and
Correct.
and partial grant writer, and it's like you just wear so
There are many hats.
many hats.
Oh,
Yes.
it's absolutely true. So in this one, it was kind of miraculous to watch the way Chris and Karen dealt with, oh my God, all right, we can't do this yet. We don't know what the next 2 months are going to look like. And being able to go day by day by day, and the three of us would kind of check in and like, all right, what needs to get done today? And it just became this like, it was almost an hourly or daily, what's happening and what do our people need? And it was really, for me, getting very clear about the core value and the core mission of dell'Arte Opera Ensemble. And that's what carried through. That's what helped these guys to make the decision. I wasn't making the decisions. I was just carrying them out.
Right.
But in the midst of panic, what do? You go back to who you originally were. Why, how did this company get created in the first place? So I thought that was a wonderful gift to be able to go back to the source of what this company was and to be part of helping these guys create what the future is going to be.
Right, because originally, Chris, it was more of a training program than actual production. Am I correct?
Early on, it was as simple as 4 music stands and an upright piano in a church, doing on-book readings 20 years ago, because there wasn't so much of that going on. But as we've grown and added elements, we've continued to have the training be at the forefront. It just with going a little further through the process each year.
And I mean, it is exciting because, I mean, you're giving this, I mean, in a sense, this young artist program, but not on the budget of the large companies that are doing it.
Right.
And I would suspect it somehow a little more comprehensive and a little more down to earth, but also humane.
I hope so. A lot of the programs, not so much the really big ones, but a lot of the regional programs, I think they survive on doing an awful lot of school outreach, which in itself is not a bad thing. I did a year of that for Orlando Opera 100 years ago, and I think that year we did over 100 performances of 2 or 3 different children's shows, and I learned a lot about what is good opera and what's not, because if there's ever a discriminating audience, it's it's a second or third grader or a middle school or high schooler, and if it's not good, it very, very quickly.
Yes, you do.
Yes, you do, and I've had those experiences, definitely with touring pieces to schools. You definitely know whether they're engaged or not.
Right. I guess what I was trying to get to, though, was a lot of times that's a large strain on a young singer if they're doing 100 performances a year in a program like that. And
right. I mean, there's the travel going into it, and then it is it's a strain on everyone actually doing it.
I guess one of the big differences with our program is that it's really designed for people who, like most young artists right now, are still holding down a subsistence job, and I think in the future that's going to be even more the case, than it is now. So all of our rehearsals and performances and everything else are on evenings and weekends, and we try to leave their days free to do what they can. And we try, if people are doing service jobs in the restaurant industry, we try to make room for that whenever we can.
So what is the vision, possibly as you can, going forward?
Well, I think a lot of the vision doesn't really change. We're always about the fundamentals, about getting the language work together, about getting the acting work together. We just did 2 weeks of our traditional weeks with Chuck Hudson, who's just such a tremendously methodical acting teacher who understands how to make it work for opera. So language, opera, language, acting, and I think the one change that we might really have to consider is helping singers deal with the new sort of media age, where they're going to have some camera skills. They're going to have to do more self-production sort of things. So those are some areas that we're exploring. We're talking to some people that know what they're doing in those areas and figuring out what that training might look like.
Yeah, I mean, in the acting world, they've been more used to this than the opera world, because so many, TV and film and even stage auditions may actually be that they're filming themselves.
Right.
And sending that off to the casting directors. But not so much in opera.
Right. I that's going to change, I'm sure. And
it's definitely going to change. Yeah.
When you think about it's already changed. I mean, 20 years ago, when almost 25 years ago when I came to the city, December was auditions month, and everybody basically camped out at NOLA Studios and in that dreadful hallway there.
Yes.
And everybody came in from regional companies all around the country, and singers came in from all around the country, and it was a mad free-for-all for a month. And I think that era is gone. I think there's going to be an awful lot more of at least preliminary auditions happening on film. The challenge for everybody, I think, in opera is going to be, how do we get the sound quality to convey, not only in an audition, but also for audiences? How do we, on our end as performers, capture the sound in a way that's convincing and grabs what's so special about an operatic voice? And how does the industry, the media industry, help that get translated for the listener on the other end? Because certainly on your little cell phone, you're not going to have that experience of hearing Jesse Norman singing live and hitting your chest in a way that I remember from when I was 19 years old, and will never forget as long as I live. We want to see if there's ways to capture that feeling, and I think that's going to be one of the biggest challenges as we go more and more to hybrid performances that have both live and film.
Right, and I know from one of the documents that also you're going to be looking. You already have design and director internships in a sense happening,
right?
And you're looking to then add the media.
I think we're just going to have to. I obviously we're going to have some absolute experts at the top of their fields, but I think it's also an opportunity for us to integrate people maybe from some of the secondary education colleges and universities that have good sound design programs and video production programs, and maybe they can get some experience, and maybe they can fall in love with opera and help us solve some of the problems that
I know there are certain programs in the CUNY system, schools even, that are have a specific focus, in their theater departments on multimedia design.
Right.
I know I was looking to that for Encompass, and nothing happened for us with that, but they are there and in the New York area, and some of the teachers are actually really excited to be able to make that step and work with actual, production companies that are not just their college programs.
Right. We're obviously at the very, very beginning of this kind of exploration. So, if somebody hears about this and hears us talking about this and wants to reach out, we're certainly
call us.
Going to be excited to have those connections.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, there have been some companies that have been doing some really amazing work, like Heartbeat's done some great things with Louisa Pruska, who worked with us a number of years ago. And I really admire those people who are sort of ahead of the curve a little bit.
Right. Rhymes with Opera, I know, has been doing this, and New Camerata is getting into it, and one of the others, Kamala Sankram, and Rob Handel are working.
Yeah, her AI.
Yeah. Yes. So, well, this has been a great conversation hearing about this, and I look forward to seeing more about the program and what's going on and next season.
We look forward to having more information on it too.
Absolutely. I'm still interested in finding a normal cycle.
I will
the new normal.
I will say that the people that are involved in these two productions, they're all so completely committed to it, and
Yes,
I think many of them are disappointed at the fact that it's not happening this summer, but also I think excited at the sort of slow cooking version of the work that's happening. So I feel great about working with these people. They're wonderful.
If I can add to that during Chuck Hudson's class, acting class for opera singers, it was so amazing to watch how they were able to kind of bring in this new skill. Everyone is so trained in the voice, and then to be giving them the opportunity as part of being cast in the performance to expand this toolbox, and it was so interesting to watch it on Zoom, because everybody would be doing their hands or doing some kind of exercise, and then you would see the realization, like, oh, I get it. So it was just really, it was a privilege to watch that opening up process going on, and that is going to be the theme of this year.
I know. Having worked with opera singers, and I come from both a theater and movement background. And being able to get them to click and understand that all movements and direction comes from a sense of what's in the interaction is happening, and your movement towards something or away from something is from that interaction. And it's not just I move here to move here, or the director told me to move here. Why are you moving there?
Yes.
And that's the big step for them. It's like the intention behind that movement, so that you don't think they're just moving there.
Right.
And it also cuts out unnecessary movement. So you hope.
Amen.
Well, thank you both.
Thank you, Chuck.
This has been Indie Opera Podcast with Chuck Sachs, Chris Fecteau, and Marianna Mott-Newirth from dell'Arte Opera Ensemble.
Thanks for the chat, Chuck.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.